Out the car. Now.
I didn't do anything wrong.
I said out! Move your black ass before I drag you out like a dog!
Sir, I'm 74 years old. You will not speak to me that way.
Do I look like I care? Out!
That was Officer Derek Lawson. 9:15 on a Saturday morning. A quiet street in Fort Mill, South Carolina. They threw her down, face first. Her chin hit the asphalt. Her veteran cap landed in the gutter.
Stay down!
I served this country 28 years.
Shut up! Hands behind your back, now!
A 74-year-old woman, face down, handcuffed. On the street she'd called home for 22 years. 3 neighbors watched from their porches. Nobody moved. But what happened next on that street? Nobody on that block was ready for it. But hold on, we need to rewind. Because this morning didn't start with sirens and handcuffs. It started with gospel music and canned soup. 5:45 a.m., Fort Mill, South Carolina. The sun wasn't even up yet. Beatrice Taylor was already awake. She sat on the edge of her bed for a full minute, just breathing. That was her routine, had been for 30 years. Old habit from the Army. You don't rush the morning. You meet it. She stood. Her right knee popped. It always did since the replacement 2 years back. She didn't complain. She never complained. Her house was small, 1 story, yellow shutters that needed repainting, a porch with 2 rocking chairs, one for her, one that used to be James's. Her husband, Sergeant Major James Taylor, passed 8 years ago. Heart attack. Quiet, just like him. The hallway told the whole story. Photos lined both walls. Beatrice in her Army dress uniform, James in his. The 2 of them at Fort Hood, young and grinning. Their son Raymond at his first promotion, then his second, then his 3rd star. Nobody who visited ever saw those photos, because nobody ever got past the living room. Beatrice kept her history in the hallway on purpose. It was hers, private. She ironed a floral blouse, put on clean slacks, slid her feet into flat shoes, the only kind her knee allowed now. She clipped on her gold cross necklace, grabbed her faded Army veteran cap from the hook by the door. Then she loaded the car. 14 cans of soup, 8 cans of beans, a box of children's books donated by the church, 3 blankets. All for the veterans' food pantry she'd volunteered at every Saturday for the past 11 years. The Honda started on the 3rd try. It always took 3. Gospel hummed from the radio. The air smelled like magnolias and fresh-cut grass. She backed out of the driveway, waved to Dorothy Perkins across the street. Dorothy waved back with her coffee mug. "Beautiful morning, Betty," Beatrice smiled. "God's painting today, Dorothy." That was Beatrice Taylor's Saturday, same as every Saturday. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. A 74-year-old woman driving canned goods to hungry veterans. Now, here's what you need to understand about Fort Mill. It's a suburb, growing fast, new money moving in, coffee shops replacing barber shops. But beneath the fresh paint, the old lines were still there. The north side, mostly white. The south side, where Beatrice lived, mostly black. 2 different zip codes in the same small town. The Fort Mill Police Department had 46 officers. 41 were white. The department had been flagged twice by the state for disproportionate traffic stops. Both times the review was handled internally. Both times the conclusion was the same. No pattern found, but the numbers said different. Black residents made up 12% of the town. They accounted for 61% of all traffic stops, 78% of vehicle searches. Everyone in the South Side knew it. Nobody with a badge admitted it. And every Saturday morning, parked at the corner of Magnolia Drive and Elm Street, right at the invisible line between North and South, sat the same patrol cruiser. Officer Derek Lawson behind the wheel, Officer Craig Morrison in the passenger seat, watching. Now, 200 miles east, Fort Liberty, North Carolina, 4:30 a.m. A military logistics convoy was already rolling. 14 vehicles, Humvees, supply trucks, 2 command vehicles. Standard resupply run to a regional depot. Routine, boring. Paperwork on wheels, except for one detail. Lieutenant General Raymond Taylor, 3 stars, Deputy Commanding General of U.S. Army Forces Command, was riding in the lead command vehicle. A bridge weight restriction had rerouted the convoy through Fort Mill. Raymond was overseeing personally because the last reroute caused a 12-hour delay. At 6:52 a.m., he texted his mother. "Morning, Mom. Convoy passing through FM today. Might swing by tonight for dinner." She texted back a heart emoji. Then, "Drive safe, baby." He smiled, put the phone away, went back to his logistics briefing. Neither of them knew that in less than 3 hours, that convoy would be parked on Beatrice Taylor's street, and the whole country would know her name. Beatrice turned left onto Elm Street. Slow. Signal on. 23 in a 25 zone. She always drove under the limit. James used to tease her about it. "Betty, the turtles are passing us." She didn't make it 2 blocks. Blue and red lights flashed in her rearview mirror. No siren, just the lights. Spinning. Silent. Beatrice pulled over immediately, put the car in park, turned the radio down. Placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. That was instinct. 28 years in the Army taught her. You keep your hands visible. Always. The cruiser sat behind her for a full minute. Just sitting. Lights are still spinning. That was a tactic. Derek Lawson liked to let people stew, let them get nervous, let them start fidgeting. Fidgeting gave him reasons. Beatrice didn't fidget. She waited. Derek stepped out first, adjusted his belt, took his time. Craig came out on the passenger side and hung back near the rear bumper. Standard positioning. One at the window, one watching from behind. Derek walked up to the driver's side. He didn't lean down to eye level the way you're trained to. He stood tall, looked down, made her crane her neck up to see his face. He didn't say good morning, didn't introduce himself, didn't explain why he stopped her. "License and registration." Beatrice kept her hands on the wheel. "Good morning, officer. May I ask why I've been pulled over?" "License and registration. Did I stutter?" "My purse is on the passenger seat. I'm going to reach for it now." She moved her right hand slowly, deliberately. "Hands on the wheel," Derek snapped. His hand went to his hip. Beatrice froze. Her hand stopped midair. "You just asked me for my documents, sir." "I tell you when to move, not the other way around." She put her hand back, waited. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Now, slowly, she reached across, opened her purse, pulled out her wallet, handed him the license. The registration was in the glove box. She told him so. "Open it." She leaned over and opened the glove compartment, pulled out the registration, handed it through the window. Derek looked at the license, looked at her, looked at the license again. Like something didn't add up. Like her face didn't match the name. Like a 74-year-old woman in a floral blouse was somehow suspicious. "Sit tight." He walked back to the cruiser. Beatrice sat, hands on the wheel. The gospel station played low. The morning sun was climbing above the oaks. She could smell the magnolias through the open window. 5 minutes passed, then 7, then 10. In the cruiser, Derek ran her plate. It came back clean. Ran her license, spotless, not even a parking ticket. 22 years at the same address. Valid registration, valid insurance. Everything is perfect. He came back anyway. "Ma'am, your left taillight is flickering." It wasn't. Both taillights were working fine. Dorothy Perkins could see them from her porch. Later, her phone footage would prove it. "I had them checked last month," Beatrice said. "Both lights are working." "Are you arguing with me?" "No, sir, I'm telling you a fact." Derek leaned on the window frame. His face was close now. She could smell his coffee breath. "Here's a fact for you. Your license isn't coming up clean in our system. There's a flag." There was no flag. There was no system issue. He made it up, right there, on the spot. "That's not possible," Beatrice said. "My record is clean." "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle." "For a taillight?" "For your safety and mine. Step out." Beatrice looked at him. She'd served under commanders in Desert Storm. She'd walked through checkpoints in Bosnia. She'd handled pressure that would break men half her age. She knew what this was. But she also knew what happened to black people who refused. "I'll step out," she said. "But I'd like your badge number first." "You don't need my badge number." "I'm entitled to—" "What you're entitled to is following my instructions. Now step out of the vehicle, or I'll remove you myself. Your choice." She unbuckled her seatbelt. Slowly. Her knee was stiff from sitting. She opened the door, swung her legs out, planted her feet on the curb, stood up. It took her a few seconds. The knee didn't cooperate the way it used to. She held the door for balance. Derek didn't wait. "Move to the back of the vehicle." "I'm moving. My knee." "Faster." "I just had a knee replaced." "I don't need your medical history. Move." She limped toward the trunk. Craig was already there, standing with his arms crossed. He didn't say a word, just watched her approach with flat, empty eyes. "Hands on the trunk," Derek said. Beatrice placed her hands on the warm metal. The canned goods shifted underneath. She could hear them rolling. 14 cans of soup, 8 cans of beans, children's books, blankets for veterans. "Spread your feet." She was 74 years old, standing on a public street, hands on the trunk of her own car, being told to spread her feet like a suspect. At 9:20 on a Saturday morning, 2 blocks from her front door. Derek radioed in. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Dispatch, I've got a possible unregistered vehicle at Elm and Magnolia. The driver is non-compliant, requesting a unit for backup." Non-compliant. She'd done everything he asked, every single thing. She'd handed over her documents, stepped out of the car, walked to the trunk, put her hands down, and he called her non-compliant. The radio crackled back. 10-4, unit en route. Craig shifted his weight. He glanced across the street. Dorothy Perkins was standing on her porch now, coffee mug still in one hand, phone in the other, held up, recording. Craig leaned toward Derek, whispered, "The neighbor's got her phone out." Derek didn't even turn. "Let her record. She'll see us doing our jobs." Beatrice stared at the trunk, at her own reflection in the paint, distorted, small. She said quietly, "I've lived on this street for 22 years. I know everyone on this block. You know I didn't do anything." Derek stepped close behind her, close enough that she could feel his breath on the back of her neck. "Ma'am, the only thing I know is that you're going to stand right there and keep your mouth shut until I tell you otherwise." She closed her eyes, her gold cross pressed against her chest. Somewhere, 3 blocks east, the low rumble of diesel engines was growing, but it was still faint, still far away. Nobody heard it yet. Derek popped the trunk. He didn't ask, didn't request consent, didn't mention probable cause. He just reached past Beatrice, pressed the release, and the trunk lid swung open. 14 cans of soup, 8 cans of beans, a cardboard box of children's books, 3 neatly folded blankets. Derek stared at it like he was looking at evidence. What's all this? Donations, Beatrice said. For the Veterans Food Pantry on Oak Street. I volunteer there every Saturday. Derek picked up a can of chicken noodle soup, turned it in his hand, put it down, picked up another, tomato, set it beside the first, like he was conducting an inventory of a crime scene. That's a lot of supplies for one person. It's not for one person. It's for the pantry. Who told you to bring all this? Nobody told me. I've been doing this for 11 years. Derek looked at Craig. A look passed between them. The kind of look that means nothing to a camera, but everything to the person standing in front of it. You're running some kind of operation, ma'am? Beatrice turned her head. Excuse me? I asked you a question. All this stuff. Who's it really for? I just told you. It's for veterans. Yeah, you said that. He closed the trunk, slowly, let the lid hang for a second before it clicked shut. We'll see. Then he turned to her purse. It was still on the passenger seat. He walked around, opened the passenger door, grabbed it, and dumped the entire contents onto the hood of the car. Everything scattered. Reading glasses, wallet, a tube of hand cream, her VA medical card, a small leather Bible with a cracked spine, a photograph, James in his dress uniform, smiling. The photo slid across the hood and almost fell off the edge. Beatrice reached for it. Don't touch that. Derek pointed at her, one finger, like scolding a child. She pulled her hand back, watched the photo of her dead husband sitting on the hot metal hood of her car. Face up, James smiling at the sky. Derek picked up the VA card, turned it over, read it. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Beatrice A. Taylor. He tossed it back on the pile. It landed on the Bible. He picked up the wallet, opened it, counted the cash, $42. He put it down without a word. What about in here? He held up the Bible. That's my Bible. I can see that. What's inside it? Scripture. Derek flipped through the pages, shook it, like something was supposed to fall out. Nothing did. He dropped it on the hood. The spine cracked a little more. Beatrice watched her whole life spread across the hood of her Honda like evidence at a crime scene. Glasses, wallet, Bible, VA card, a photo of the man she loved for 41 years, and 2 cops standing over it all, picking through it, tossing things around. This is humiliating, she said. What was that? I said this is humiliating. You've searched my car. You've gone through my purse. You found nothing, because there's nothing to find. Derek stepped toward her. You don't get to tell me when I'm done. I want your badge number. Both of you. You already asked for that. And you didn't give it. I'm asking again. Derek smiled. Not a warm smile, the kind that says, I dare you. File a complaint. I will. And I want to call my son. No calls. I have a right to. You have a right to stand there and be quiet. That's what you have. Beatrice's jaw tightened. She turned to Craig. He'd been silent the entire time, standing there, arms folded, watching. Young man, she said, you see what's happening here. Is this what they taught you at the academy? Craig blinked. His mouth opened slightly. For a half second, something crossed his face. Maybe discomfort. Maybe recognition. Then it was gone. Ma'am, just cooperate and this'll be over soon. I have cooperated. From the first second. I've done everything he asked. Craig looked away. Dorothy Perkins was still filming across the street. Another car had pulled over. The driver was recording from inside. Craig swallowed hard, but said nothing. Derek came back around the car. He was done pretending to search. Now he was just standing in her space. Close. Too close. She could smell his sweat mixing with the morning heat. "You know what your problem is?" he said. "You think because you're old, you get to mouth off. You think you get special treatment. I think I get treated like a citizen. You get treated like what I decide." He poked her shoulder with 2 fingers, not hard, just enough to make her take a step back. She didn't take the step. She stood exactly where she was, 74 years old, bad knee, floral blouse, gold cross, and she did not move. Something shifted in Derek's eyes. He wasn't annoyed anymore. He was angry. Because she wasn't breaking. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was standing on her own street, looking him in the face, and she was not afraid. That made him dangerous. "I'm going to ask you one more time," he said. "Step to the back of the vehicle and put your hands behind your back." "Why? Am I being arrested?" "You're being detained." "For what?" "For failure to comply." "I've complied with everything." "You're complying when I say you're complying." He grabbed her left wrist, twisted it behind her back. She gasped. Her shoulder wasn't built for that anymore. "My arm! Stop!" Craig moved in, took the other wrist. Together they bent her forward over the hood. Her face was inches from the photo of James. She looked at it. Her husband. Smiling. Then Derek pushed her down off the hood. Both officers drove her to the ground. Her chin hit the asphalt. Her glasses crunched under Craig's boot. Her Bible slid off the hood and landed open on the street, pages fluttering in the hot breeze. They rolled her onto her stomach, cuffed her wrists behind her back. The metal bit into her skin. She was face down on the pavement, cheek pressed against the warm road. She could see her veteran cap in the gutter, flattened. Tire marks across the faded army patch. Derek stood up, keyed his radio, calm as morning coffee. "Dispatch, the suspect is in custody. Combative female, resisted arrest." Combative. A 74-year-old woman with a bad knee and a Bible. Combative. Dorothy Perkins was sobbing on her porch, still recording. The second driver had gotten out of his car now. His phone was shaking in his hand. Beatrice lay still. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She breathed. Slow. Controlled. The way the army taught her. But her lips were moving, and if you were close enough, you could hear it. She was praying. 3 blocks east, the diesel engines were getting louder. The ground was starting to vibrate, just barely, a low hum you could feel in your chest before you could hear it with your ears. Derek didn't notice. He was too busy writing up his report. The first thing Derek noticed was the shadow. It moved across the pavement like a slow eclipse. He looked up. A Humvee had turned onto Elm Street, military green, dust on the hood, an American flag mounted on the antenna, then another one behind it, and another, and another. 14 vehicles, Humvees, supply trucks, 2 command vehicles, rolling bumper to bumper down a residential street at 15 miles an hour. The diesel engines shook the windows of every house on the block. Dorothy Perkins felt her porch rattle under her feet. The lead Humvee stopped. Not because of traffic. Because Sergeant First Class Denise Cooper, passenger seat, former military police, saw exactly what was happening on that sidewalk. An elderly black woman, face down, handcuffed. 2 officers standing over her. Cooper raised her fist, the convoy signal for full stop. Every vehicle behind her braked, one by one. The whole street is filled with olive green steel. The engines idled low and heavy, like a growl. Derek stared. His hand was still holding the radio. His mouth hung open slightly. Craig took a step back from Beatrice, then another step, like the ground under him had shifted. Doors opened. Soldiers stepped out. Not fast, Not aggressive, disciplined, controlled. One by one, 5, 10, 15, 20, 32 soldiers now standing along Elm Street in full uniform, silent, watching. Nobody said a word. Nobody needed to. Derek's voice cracked when he finally spoke. This is a police matter. Military personnel have no jurisdiction. Nobody responded. The soldiers just stood, arms at their sides, eyes forward. 32 statues in combat boots. Then the rear command vehicle door opened. Lieutenant General Raymond Taylor stepped out, 3 stars on his chest, 6'2", shoulders that filled the doorway. His boots hit the asphalt and the sound echoed off the houses. He didn't rush. He walked. Steady. Measured. The kind of walk that says every step is deliberate and every second is being counted. The soldiers saw him. Straightened. Not because he ordered it, because that's what happens when a 3-star general is walking toward a scene. Raymond's eyes swept the street. The cruiser. The flashing lights. The canned goods on the ground. The Bible lying open in the road. The veteran cap in the gutter with tire marks across the patch. Then he saw her. His mother. Face down. Handcuffed. Cheek pressed against the pavement. Floral blouse torn at the shoulder. Her cross necklace dangling against the asphalt. He stopped walking. Just for a second. His jaw locked. His fists clenched at his sides. Something moved behind his eyes. Something enormous and controlled and barely contained. Then he kept walking. He stopped 6 feet from Derek, looked down at him. Derek was 5'9", Raymond was 6'2". The height difference felt like a canyon. Raymond's voice was low, calm, quiet enough that you had to lean in to hear it. And that was what made it terrifying. "Officer, what is your name?" It wasn't a question. It was a command. "Lawson. Derek Lawson." "Officer Lawson. The woman on the ground. Do you know who she is?" Derek swallowed. She was non-compliant during a routine traffic." "That's not what I asked." Raymond didn't blink. "Do you know who she is?" "No." "That woman is retired Colonel Beatrice Taylor, United States Army. 28 years of service, Desert Storm, Bosnia. She has more time in uniform than you have on this earth." Derek's face went white. Not pale, white, like someone had pulled a plug and drained everything out. "She is also my mother." The street went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence where you can hear your own heartbeat. Craig dropped to his knees. His hands were shaking so badly he couldn't find the keyhole on the handcuffs. It took him 3 tries. The metal clicked open. Beatrice's wrists were red, raw. Raymond knelt beside his mother. Gently. One knee on the pavement. He took her hand, helped her sit up, then helped her stand. She brushed the grit off her blouse, touched her chin where it hit the asphalt, straightened her cross necklace. She looked at Derek, said nothing. Absolutely nothing. Her silence hit harder than any words could. Raymond turned to Dorothy Perkins. "Ma'am, did you record this?" Dorothy nodded, tears running down her face. "From almost the beginning." "May I ask you to preserve that footage?" "I'm not deleting a single second." The other driver, still standing by his car, held up his phone. "I got it too. All of it." Raymond pulled out his phone, made 3 calls. First, his JAG contact. Second, the Fort Mill police chief's direct line. Third, the FBI regional field office in Charlotte. Each call was under 30 seconds. He gave the same information 3 times: location, officers' names, nature of the incident. Video evidence secured. Then he turned back to Derek. Didn't look at him, looked past him. Spoke to Sergeant First Class Cooper. "Sergeant, ensure both officers remain on scene until local command arrives. No one leaves this street." "Yes, sir." Derek tried one more time. His voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Sir, this was a routine stop. She matched a description." Raymond still didn't look at him. "You have the right to remain silent, Officer Lawson. I'd suggest you use it." Derek's mouth closed. His arms dropped to his sides. Craig was already sitting on the curb, head in his hands. 32 soldiers, 2 cops, one 74-year-old woman standing in the middle of it all, dusting off her Sunday blouse. The power on that street hadn't just shifted. It had flipped upside down. And Derek Lawson knew, standing there in that silence, surrounded by uniforms that outranked him in every possible way, that his life as he knew it was already over. 22 minutes. That's how long it took for the chief to arrive. Chief Harold Simmons pulled up in an unmarked sedan. No lights, no siren. He parked at the end of the block and sat in the car for a good 30 seconds before getting out. Like he was calculating. Like he was deciding which version of himself to bring to this street. He stepped out, straightened his tie, walked toward the scene. And then he stopped. He saw the convoy first. 14 military vehicles stretching 2 full blocks, soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder on both sides of the street. Then he saw the 3 stars on Raymond's chest. Then he saw Beatrice sitting on her porch steps, Dorothy beside her, a glass of water in her hand. Then he saw Derek and Craig, standing by their cruiser, badges still on, weapons still holstered, but their faces looked like men standing at the edge of a cliff. Simmons walked straight to Raymond, extended his hand. "General Taylor, I'm Chief Simmons. I want to assure you, Chief..." Raymond didn't take his hand. "Your officers assaulted a 74-year-old retired Army colonel on her own street. They fabricated probable cause, conducted an illegal search, used excessive force, filed a false radio report calling her combative. And right now, every second of it is on 3 separate recordings." Simmons lowered his hand. His jaw worked side to side. The political math was running behind his eyes. "I want both officers suspended immediately," Raymond said. "Badges and weapons. Right here, right now." Simmons hesitated. 1 second. 2. "Chief, I've already contacted the FBI field office in Charlotte. They'll have agents here by Monday. How this plays out for your department depends entirely on what happens in the next 60 seconds. Simmons turned to Derek. His voice was tight, controlled, but there was no warmth in it. "Lawson, Morrison, badges and service weapons. Now." Derek didn't move at first. His eyes darted to Simmons, to Raymond, to the soldiers lining the street, looking for an out. There wasn't one. He unclipped his badge, slowly, like peeling off a piece of his own skin. Set it in Simmons' palm, then his weapon. Craig did the same, faster, head down, hands trembling. "You're both suspended without pay, effective immediately," Simmons said, "pending a full investigation." Then something unexpected happened. One of the soldiers, Sergeant Cooper, stepped forward. "Chief, that officer is carrying a secondary recording device, right chest pocket." Everyone looked at Craig. His face went gray. Simmons held out his hand. "Morrison." Craig's mouth opened. "It's personal. It wasn't even..." "Hand it over." Craig reached into his chest pocket, pulled out a small body camera. Black. No department markings. His off-the-books camera. The one he wore because he liked rewatching the stops, the takedowns. Simmons turned it over in his hand. Was this recording during the stop? Craig swallowed. I don't think it was. Cooper spoke again. Chief, I'm former military police. That model has a continuous recording indicator. The red light is still on. The red light. Tiny. Blinking. Still on. Craig's face crumbled. Whatever wall he'd been holding up collapsed right there on the sidewalk. His voice came out thin, shaking. It was Derek's idea. The stop. He always picks this street. He said she looked... He said... I just... Shut up, Derek hissed. Shut your mouth. Too late. Everything Craig said was on Dorothy's recording, on the other driver's recording, and on Craig's own camera, still blinking red. Simmons put the camera in an evidence bag he pulled from his sedan. He turned back to Raymond, tried again. General, I want you to know this department does not tolerate... Chief! Raymond's voice didn't rise. It dropped. Your department has tolerated this. My mother has lived on this street for 22 years. These officers patrol her block every single day. She knows their car. They know her Honda. This was not an accident. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a choice. Simmons had nothing left to say. He nodded once, turned, walked Derek and Craig to his sedan, put them in the back seat, drove away. The block went quiet again. The soldiers stood down. Engines rumbled as the convoy prepared to move on. One by one, the Humvees rolled past Beatrice's porch. Each driver gave a small nod through the windshield. Beatrice watched them pass. She raised her hand. A wave. Small. Steady. The kind of wave a colonel gives to soldiers she's proud of. Raymond sat beside her on the porch steps. He took her hand. Didn't say anything for a long time, just held it. Finally, Beatrice spoke, not to Raymond, not to Dorothy, to the camera still recording in Dorothy's hand. I served this country for 28 years. My husband gave his whole life to the uniform. I'm 74 years old. I was bringing food to other veterans, and I ended up face down on the street I've called home for 2 decades. She paused, looked directly into the lens. I'm not angry. I'm tired. Dorothy posted the video that night. By Sunday afternoon, it had 6 million views. By Monday morning, 14 million. The clip of Beatrice saying, I'm not angry, I'm tired, was everywhere. Every news desk, every timeline, every group chat in America. And the storm was just beginning. The FBI didn't wait until Monday. They came Sunday. 2 agents from the Charlotte field office drove down Saturday night after seeing Dorothy's video. By Sunday morning, they were sitting in Chief Simmons' office with a federal subpoena for every traffic stop record, dashcam file, and internal affairs report the Fort Mill Police Department had generated in the past 5 years. Simmons cooperated. He didn't have a choice. Within 72 hours, the case had a name. Federal Civil Rights Investigation. Fort Mill PD. Case number assigned. Task force assembled. 3 FBI agents, 2 DOJ attorneys, 1 data analyst. The first thing they pulled was Derek Lawson's personnel file. 3 formal excessive force complaints in 6 years. The first, a 29-year-old black man pulled over for a broken taillight that wasn't broken. Sound familiar? Derek cuffed him on the hood of his car, searched the vehicle without consent, found nothing. The man filed a complaint. It was reviewed by Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs was run by Captain Glenn Lawson, Derek's uncle. Finding unsubstantiated. No action taken. The second complaint. A black teenager on a bicycle, 15 years old. Derek stopped him, demanded ID, told him he matched the description of a robbery suspect. There had been no robbery. The kid's mother filed the complaint, reviewed by Internal Affairs, finding officer acted within departmental guidelines, no action taken. The third, a 46-year-old black woman, church deacon, pulled over 2 blocks from Beatrice's house, same street, same corner. Derek accused her of running a stop sign she never ran. He made her stand in the rain for 20 minutes while he searched her trunk. Found 3 bags of groceries and a choir robe. She filed the complaint. Internal Affairs reviewed, finding insufficient evidence of misconduct. Case closed. 3 complaints, 3 black citizens, 3 dismissals. All reviewed by the same man, all cleared by the same signature, Captain Glenn Lawson. The FBI saw the pattern in under 48 hours. Glenn Lawson was placed on administrative leave pending a separate federal investigation into obstruction of justice and official misconduct. Then the data analyst went to work. 5 years of traffic stop records. Every stop logged by date, time, location, officer, race of driver, reason for stop, and outcome. The numbers were damning. Black residents, 12% of Fort Mill's population, 61% of all traffic stops, 78% of all vehicle searches. On Derek Lawson's patrol route alone, 93% of his stops were black drivers. 93%. The DOJ attorneys requested a federal grand jury. Derek Lawson was indicted on 2 counts: deprivation of civil rights under color of law, 18 U.S.C. Section 242, and felony assault on an elderly person under South Carolina state law. Craig Morrison was indicted on 1 federal count, but Craig had already made his decision. The moment his own body camera footage was played back to him in the FBI field office, every word, every second, every lie Derek told, Craig broke. He cooperated, fully. He gave the FBI everything. Not just about that Saturday morning, about every stop, every shift, every time Derek picked that same corner on Magnolia and Elm, every time Derek said things in the cruiser that Craig never reported, every time Craig watched and said nothing. Craig pleaded guilty to a reduced federal charge. The judge gave him 18 months in federal prison and 3 years of supervised release. He would never work in law enforcement again. Derek went to trial. His attorney tried everything. Argued standard procedure, argued officer safety, argued that Beatrice was non-compliant, played the radio dispatch recording where Derek called her combative. Then the prosecution played Craig's body camera footage. The jury watched Derek mock a 74-year-old woman. Watched him fabricate a taillight violation. Watched him lie about her license. Watched him dump her purse on the hood. Watched him throw her to the ground. Watched her chin hit the pavement. Watched him cuff her and radio in, calm, bored, that she was combative. The defense had no response. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing day. The courtroom was standing room only, national media in the back rows. Beatrice sat in the front. She wore a dark blue dress, her gold cross, no veteran cap. She never replaced the one they ran over. The judge looked at Derek for a long time before speaking. Officer Lawson, you swore an oath to protect and serve. Instead, you targeted, you harassed, you fabricated, you brutalized. And when it was over, you lied about it on the radio like it was nothing. You didn't just assault a woman, you assaulted the oath you swore. 8 years. Federal prison. No parole eligibility for 6. Derek's face didn't change. He stared straight ahead, like a man who still believed the world owed him something. They let him out in handcuffs, the same kind he'd put on Beatrice. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of his shoes on the tile floor. Then came Glenn Lawson, Derek's uncle. The man who made 3 complaints disappear. The man who signed off on every cover-up. Glenn pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice. 2 years federal prison. Permanently barred from any law enforcement position in the United States. Chief Simmons was never criminally charged, but the DOJ data made his position impossible. The numbers proved systemic bias under his leadership. The city council called an emergency session. Simmons was given 2 choices: resign or be terminated for cause. He resigned. No pension, no ceremony. He walked out of the building on a Tuesday afternoon carrying a cardboard box. Nobody shook his hand. The Fort Mill Fair Policing Coalition, that Facebook group with 1,200 members, filed a class-action civil rights lawsuit against the department. It was joined by the ACLU and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Beatrice filed her own federal civil rights lawsuit. Her attorneys presented the footage, the data, the buried complaints, and the medical records from her injuries. Fort Mill settled for $4.2 million, the largest police misconduct settlement in the county's history. Beatrice kept $1.2 million. The rest, $3 million, she donated to establish the Sergeant Major James Taylor Veterans Fund, named after her husband. The fund would provide legal aid, housing support, and emergency assistance to veterans facing discrimination. The Department of Justice placed the Fort Mill Police Department under a federal consent decree. The terms were non-negotiable. Mandatory department-issued body cameras on every officer, no personal devices. Quarterly bias training, an independent civilian oversight board with subpoena power. A complete overhaul of the internal complaint process. No officer could serve in internal affairs if they had a family member on active duty in the same department. Dorothy Perkins, the white neighbor who stood on her porch with a coffee mug and a phone, was appointed co-chair of the new Civilian Oversight Board. Her testimony was cited in the consent decree as a turning point. The woman who had a thin blue line sticker on her car for 15 years peeled it off the day after the trial. And Beatrice was invited to speak at the National Veterans Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. Her speech lasted 4 minutes. It went viral for the 2nd time. She said one thing that nobody forgot. I didn't fight for a perfect country. I fought for one that was honest enough to fix itself. 6 months later, Saturday morning, same street, same time. The magnolias were blooming again. The air smelled like cut grass and warm pavement. A sprinkler ticked back and forth in somebody's yard 2 houses down. Beatrice Taylor stood at the trunk of her Honda Accord. Same car, same driveway. She was loading boxes. 12 cans of soup, 10 cans of beans, a new box of children's books, this time donated by the local library, 4 blankets, 2 bags of winter socks. The pantry had doubled in size since the story broke. Donations came in from 38 states. Volunteers tripled. They had to rent a second storage unit just to hold everything. Beatrice lifted the last box. Her knee clicked. She paused, adjusted her grip, set it in the trunk beside the others. She closed the lid with both hands, firm, the way she always did. She was wearing a new blouse, light blue, pressed clean. Her gold cross hung where it always hung, around her neck, catching the morning light. But no veteran cap. She never replaced it. She didn't need to. Everybody on this street knew exactly who she was now. Everybody in this country did. A patrol car turned onto Elm Street. New markings. New department logo. Part of the federal consent decree required a visual rebrand. The car slowed as it passed Beatrice's driveway. The window rolled down. A young officer. Black woman, late 20s, short hair, clean uniform. A department-issued body camera blinking on her chest. "Morning, Colonel Taylor. Need any help with those boxes?" Beatrice looked at her, smiled. A real one. I've got it, sweetheart, but thank you. The officer nodded. You have a good day, ma'am. The car rolled on, slow, respectful, the way a patrol car should move through a neighborhood. Across the street, Dorothy Perkins stepped out onto her porch. Same coffee mug, same rocking chair. She waved. Betty, you need a ride today? My car's free. I'm good, Dorothy. This old Honda's got another 100,000 in her. Dorothy laughed, sat down in her rocker. On the small table beside her, a folder with the Civilian Oversight Board logo on the front. She had a meeting at noon. Third one this month. Beatrice got in the car, turned the key. The engine caught on the second try now. Raymond had the starter replaced. Gospel station came through the speakers. Same station, same songs. The morning sun sat low and golden through the windshield. Her phone buzzed. A text from Raymond. Mom, dinner tonight? She typed back. Only if you're making the cornbread. 3 dots. Then, deal. She put the phone down, backed out of the driveway, turned left onto Elm Street, drove past the corner of Magnolia and Elm, the spot where the cruiser used to sit every Saturday morning. It was empty now, just a patch of curb, leaves gathered in the gutter. Nothing there. She drove on, windows down, gospel playing, canned goods rattling in the trunk. Same Saturday, same road, same woman. But it wasn't the same. And everyone on that street knew it. Because justice didn't arrive in a convoy for Beatrice Taylor by accident. It arrived because a neighbor picked up a phone. Because a soldier raised her fist and said, "Stop." Because one person after another refused to look the other way. That's the thing about justice. It doesn't fall from the sky. It doesn't show up on its own. It starts with someone deciding that silence is no longer an option. Sometimes it's a 3-star general. Sometimes it's a grandmother in a floral blouse. Sometimes it's a woman on a porch with a coffee mug and a phone. Sometimes it's you. So here's what I want to know. If you were Dorothy, standing on your porch, watching a 74-year-old woman get thrown to the ground by 2 officers who were supposed to protect her, would you have hit record? And if you did, would you have shared it? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear it. Every single one. And if this story made you feel something, even for a second, pass it to someone who needs to hear it. Like, share, subscribe. Not for me. For every Beatrice Taylor out there who's still waiting for someone to pick up the phone.
8 years, federal prison, no parole for state. The safe handcuffed he put on Beatrice, Chris shot on him. But here what this story is really about. It's not about convoys. It's not about 3-star general showing up at the right moment. It's about what happens when a system decides your dignity is optional. 3 complaints before Beatrice, 3 black citizens, 3 times the paperwork vanished into a drawer, signed by the same last name. The convoys didn't create justice. It's a mess in justice, impossible to bury. And that difference between justice arriving and injustice finally being seen in the conversation America still isn't ready to have. So let me ask you something. If the convoys never came, if Raymond Rose would never be routed through Fort Mill, would Beatrice's story exist? Or would she just be complaint number 4 in a closed drawer? How many people are fade out on their own streets right now, with no camera rolling, no convoy coming, no son with 3-star on his chest? At what point the silence stop being neutral and start being complicit? Drop one word in the comments, just one, for what you felt watching this. And if this story hit you somewhere real, pass it on, like, share, subscribe, because sometimes the only convoy coming is you.